Tennessee lawmakers today are deliberating whether to pass an amendment that would effectively ban abortions in the state. The original bill, which was stalled, would prohibit the procedure once a fetal heartbeat can be detected. The amendment places further limitations banning abortions after, quote, a viable pregnancy is presumed to exist or has been confirmed. If passed, it would become one of the most restrictive abortion laws in the country. CBSNews.com reporter Kate Smith has been following all this. She joins us live from Nashville, Tennessee. So, Kate, today's the second day lawmakers are hearing arguments on this amendment. What's the latest?
So what we're hearing today are testimonies from people who are either in support or against this total ban on abortion in the state. Now, yesterday we heard 5 testimonies, and all of those testimonies were from white men who were all in favor of the bill. But today it's been a little bit more two-sided. So we've heard from doctors and from what they call faith leaders who do not agree with this bill. So we've gotten both sides of it, but we also haven't seen a lot of engagement from those lawmakers. We're not seeing a lot of questions asked to the people who are not in support of the bill. And so even though we've had that testimony, you're not seeing a lot of back and forth.
And do we have a sense as to why the fetal heartbeat bill has been stalled and why this amendment is being introduced at this point now?
Yes. So earlier this legislative session, Tennessee lawmakers did introduce a fetal heartbeat bill, much like many of the other states in the South and Midwest. But ultimately, why it failed is because in the Republican Party here in Tennessee, there was a splintering over how best to, get at the Supreme Court, which is ultimately the goal of these bills, right? And so there was a disagreement over whether or not to use the fetal heartbeat, which is typically around 6 weeks, or to make a total ban on abortion. Opponents said that a 6-week ban was arbitrary. But of course, the total ban on abortion is extreme, and there's only been one other state that's been successful to do that, and that's, of course, Alabama.
Knowing that lawmakers know that this is sort of considered a very extreme law, do they have a larger goal here? What's the end game?
Well, of course, it's the Supreme Court, and I was able to talk to the CEO and president of Planned Parenthood Tennessee, and I'd love to show you what she had to say about that.
I think they're really serious about banning abortion, and I don't think that it is a challenge to Roe right now. It's going to be struck down immediately as unconstitutional. It's blatantly unconstitutional, and it's a complete waste of Tennessee taxpayer dollars to defend the kind of law that they're talking about in court.
And so, what she has to say about that bill is, of course, it is blatantly unconstitutional. But again, that is the point. What we heard today was that if you truly want to end abortion in this country, end the status quo, you have to pass bills that are unconstitutional. So, to be honest, I don't think anyone who supports this bill would really disagree with her.
And you spoke with one of the bill's co-sponsor, Republican State Senator Kerry Roberts. I want to play for you what she had to say.
What is your place to make a choice for somebody else? And that is where we get stuck because the left position is, who are you, to make that decision for me? And the right position is, but it's alive. But it's alive. And, your best hope is when the answer's in the middle and both come together.
He suggests there's middle ground here. Are lawmakers looking to compromise?
I don't think that they are. And, the problem with where middle ground would end up on this is because middle ground doesn't really provide a solid, strong legal framework for the Supreme Court. I think, middle ground is something that would be appropriate for a bill that was truly had its sights set on Tennessee. But again, this bill, their sights are not on Tennessee. It is national. And so, this is really why these testimonies are so important, because this doesn't have an impact not only for Tennessee women, but really women all over the country, and women and men.
And opponents of this bill, you also spoke to them, Democratic State Senator Katrina Robinson. What were her concerns about this bill?
I mean, her concerns are vast on this bill. First of all, she doesn't believe that it's, a state lawmaker's place to regulate what women choose to do with their pregnancies, especially considering that it is federally protected right now. And then second of all, specifically to Tennessee, she brought up that, Tennessee will not pass an expansion to Medicaid. Tennessee will not fund child insurance, food stamps, things like that they're so against. And so for her, there's this conflict between, okay, you tell me that, life is so important, you want to make sure all these babies can be born and that abortion shouldn't exist. But on the other hand, there are plenty of children in Tennessee where lawmakers are actively, not voting on or disagreeing with bills that would help children who are already alive in the state.
So, Kate, overall, do you think that this amendment has the support to actually pass?
Absolutely. I don't think there's any question, both from lawmakers and the activists who are in the room today, that this has a very, very strong chance of passing. And again, this would be for January 2020 when the legislature reconvenes. Like we've been discussing, this is one of the most restrictive bans on abortion that we have ever seen be so successful in a state. And Alabama passed a total ban on abortion. But what makes this one so different and so much more dangerous to Roe v. Wade is that it is laser focused on the Supreme Court. They have pored over legal documents to really try to create what they believe is the strongest threat to Roe v. Wade.
All right, Kate Smith in Nashville, Tennessee. Thank you very much, Kate.